talk on the life of a product designer. There'll be a presentation by Brendan and Kate. So during this presentation, feel free to ask any questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. At the end of the presentation, I'll ask these questions to our wonderful panelists. But without further ado, I'll now pass over to Brendan and Kate.
Nice, thank you very much. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. So as the first, this is something we've all been doing quite a lot of during lockdown. Let's see. Now I'm going to see if just going to ask Kate, if you just confirm, Kate, can you see my screen or not?
Yep.
No.
Absolutely.
Oh, you can. Brilliant. Okay, stage one tick. Hello, everybody. I'm Professor Brendan Walker. I am Professor of Creative Industries in the department. I'm primarily a designer working outside of the university. I have my own design practice in East London, but I also used to teach at the Royal College of Art and Centre St Martin's, but I'm now at Middlesex University, and I want to tell you a little bit about my journey as a product designer and why I'm now at Middlesex University, why it's such a great place, such a great team of people to be with. So I originally started out as an aeronautical engineer, so I've got quite a bit of engineering in my, let's say, my arsenal of things that interest me. But when I left university, I thought, actually, I want to be a designer, a product designer. And I went to the Royal College of Art and retrained in industrial design engineering. And one of the first positions I had coming out of the university was for a Japanese company called Sekisui. And I found myself designing pet products, so injection molded. This was a dog carrying basket. I designed toys for Japanese ferrets, all sorts of weird and wonderful things. In fact, I found this today, a very old photograph. This is probably almost about 25 years old. A Tamagotchi, which is a little electronic toy that I won a competition for in Japan for saving water. So basically, the less water you used, the more happy your digital fish would be. But I also got my own clients. So this picture here is of a mood board that I put together for another Japanese client called Toa, who at that point were actually owned by a subsidiary company in the UK called Trantech. And they asked me to start redesigning some of their radio microphones. In fact, these are the microphones that you used to be able to see on Top of the Pops when it was still going as a music show for the BBC. And I started to develop this technique of being able to visualize sort of graphics and collages, different ways of working, which would inspire the products on the right, which I designed. But they didn't just look nice. Inside, I had to prove that these microphones could be manufactured. They were low volume, so only sort of 100 would be made using CNC computer controlled lathes and milling machines. So this is the kind of area, this mixture of creativity and engineering and design, which really excite me. So just trying to move on to the next slide. Excuse me, it got hung up there. And so the people I had been working for, a British design company, studio, actually started working for me. So this is the last set of what you might call products as we might know them when you're a product designer. This is a set of radio microphones and belt packs, again for Toa in Japan. And this is where I kind of left off with a more traditional product design route. I started working for another design studio called Hollington's, which were in East London. Jeff Hollington used to design chairs for Herman Miller, Parker pens, Kodak cameras, and he'd got a new project with the Science Museum, who are just developing the Welcome Wing, which is a new part of the Science Museum, which some of you may have visited. And he wanted to design these, well, they're called Bloids, working with an architect's firm. And look, they look like very misformed aircraft. and they wanted to develop this design language to create exhibits. So I got involved with this company, Hollington's, to design and develop these installations. And as part of that, I also started to develop some of the exhibits themselves. So I started to develop briefs, so written briefs to instruct other designers, developers, manufacturers. But also I developed some of these creative projects myself in-house. So I think in this particular project, I wrote about 50 briefs for the Science Museum to engage other interactive designers and product designers. And these are two exhibits I created myself, one on the left called Chips Inside, which was an electromechanical conveyor belt with objects, and you had to guess which ones had electronics in them. The one on the right was called DigiDot, where you'd stand in front of a camera, it would take a video of you, and using technology, which they still use at Wimbledon, which starts today, it would use these electromechanical dots and show a digital representation of your outline on this screen. I've always had an excitement and an interest for fairgrounds and large mechanical rides. And this was a project around the same time as an independent designer, just starting out my own studio, developing an unusual product, which was a camera which could take photographs of riders on a fairground ride. It's a bit like an early selfie stick for old cameras which used chemical films. But this camera was fired using biomedical signals. If you see the picture on the right, there's little sensors on the person's hand. Now, when you become excited, when you become thrilled, your body starts to become activated, ready for action, and you start to become a little sweaty. And if you measure that, you can work out when somebody's peak moment of excitement is. And I was using that to fire a camera on this product. And the aim was to develop photographic images, which were going to be shown in an art gallery. So we created these very large photographic images of people on rides in different emotional states. And that project really, and that came as a product design project, but also looking at its relationship to human emotions and the design of fairground rides. That led to the Science Museum inviting me back. So I'd originally been there as an exhibit designer, as an interaction designer. And they invited me back to do a whole season of events and installations at the Science Museum, which became known as Thrill Laboratory, where I developed this character as the thrill engineer, somebody who specialized in understanding human emotions in the design of rides. So we're still talking about products, but they're not irons, they're not kettles, they're not e-scooters. These are major installations, fairground machines, huge, massive, they can carry people. So there's a lot of engineering involved in trying to design these human emotions. And on the back of that, this was around 2010, I got invited by the Two Swords Group, who own Alton Towers, Thorpe Park, trying to think, Madame Two Swords, they now own Legoland. They invited me to become part of their creative team in their studios in London as an external consultant. And the kind of projects I was getting involved in ranged from, well, on the right-hand side, helping to design the drop feature on 13 at Alton Towers. So you go into a pitch black tunnel and then you drop vertically, and I was able to work out just how far and what kind of speed profile we needed to drop people in the dark, but all the way through to being involved in rides at the early stage. So Wicker Man at Alton Towers, I was part of the early development team who came up with the concept of the horror concept and the fact it was going to be a wooden coaster and the theming of that, which then secured the £16 million, which was needed to go on and develop and produce the ride. So again, exactly the same design skills, but just now being applied to very big things. I also do quite a lot of work with with TV. So I am a TV presenter. I've done some presenting, but also creating and designing installations for TV and experiments for TV. This is something I get a lot of the students involved with at the university. This is something I developed for, it's not rocket science, for ITV. They asked me, could I design the world's first inverting slide, which would use nothing but G-force to stick the presenter upside down inside the loop. If I got it wrong, they'd fall out of the loop and possibly break a leg. But using mixture of engineering, some knowledge that I had as an aeronautical engineer, but also the design of the structure itself, this is what we came up with. And this was the only video that exists, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So here we go. You can see the person's about to drop on the right-hand side. So that was the only video of it working, because ITV refused to film it because they thought, even though we proved that it worked, they didn't want to put down one of their very expensive presenters on it. So you can design things that are marvelous, but the client doesn't always appreciate what you've done. But that's just, we had great fun making it. And also I get involved with doing experiments, other experiments for TV. This was something we did for Blue Peter, using medical monitoring of people on rides. So another development of the auto portrait machine I made for fairground rides.
It's nice. As we're coming back in now to the loading bay, we can see his levels of stress, his sweat levels are still incredibly high. He's still very excited.
That is really good.
And he absolutely loved this ride.
It's not a bad one, is it, Brennan?
Yeah, it's all right.
I do love a bit of candy floss. This is another project we did for Ella's Kitchen, involving past students from Middlesex University. I was asked by Ella's Kitchen, who are formulating new food recipes for their new pouches, could I monitor babies and give an indication of just how excited babies got by different tastes. And so, using exactly the same technologies as I was using to fire the camera on the fairground ride, I was using exactly the same technique to monitor babies' responses to eating different foodstuffs. So I knew the technology, but the design of the Thrillometer, as we called it, is something that I developed with the students at the university. And it was all for a photo shoot and a video, which we also made for an advertisement. But you'll see behind the scenes here. So this was actually the final photograph, but this is what we actually produced as a, well, it was initially a prototype, but then became the final product that we used for the photo shoot. And this is typically the kind of rapid prototyping, trying stuff out that we get involved in the workshops at the university. And another project we did at the with the university here. I was asked by Thorpe Park, who were developing a hotel, if I developed something for the launch of their new hotel. And I was interested at the time in monitoring people's sleep patterns. There was a product out on the market called Zeo. There were people who were hacking this. And what Zeo does is it monitors brain waves. It can tell when somebody's sleeping by looking at the rapid eye movement on the bottom right. And I thought, well, people are most suggestive when they are in a deep dream state. If I can tell that somebody's in a deep dream state, maybe I can help them to dream about something. Maybe I could help them to dream about rides. And the proposal I made to the to Thorpe Park's marketing head of marketing was a motion platform that was really subtle. It was going to be a bed. People would get on the bed in the hotel. We would monitor their brain activity. When they were in deep sleep, in REM sleep, the bed would move ever so gently, just so that we wouldn't wake them, but it would work. It would move to exactly the same patterns of the roller coasters that people had been on the day before. And the idea was to unlock those memories, to get people to dream about roller coasters. So in a sense, free rides all the way through the night. So I put together a very basic kind of schematic showing how I might use actuators, these little things that will push the bed up and down and make it move around, and how I'd use light and sound and movement to try and make people dream. And I showed this to colleagues at the university, and they said, you don't want to do that. You want to do something proper. And I didn't realize that we had a fantastic robotics section in the university. And so I got to work with them, and we designed what became known as the MDX Chair. Now, this is a 6 degrees of motion platform. It's a single chair. It's obviously quite different to the bed, even though we're actually developing a much larger platform base. But this simulator chair, which you can see, it's a chair which is suspended by 6 what they're called air muscles, which they use in robotics. If you inflate these muscles, they shorten and lengthen if you dump the gas from them. And you can make the chair move in 6 dimensions: forward, backwards, up, down, side to side. And you can also rotate the chair around those 6 axes. And it was designed so that it was simple enough to be made by secondary schools. And in fact, there are schools who've been building this in their own workshops and developing. Now, I have to apologize. I've got a delivery coming. Just hold that thought for 30 seconds and I'll be back. Won't be a moment.
I'm not sure if you can hear me, but while Brendan is away, can I just say that the graduates from this year has actually got a website called the Creative Graduates that is launched today. And I'm going to put the link into the chat window. If they have a chat window, Q&A session, they can then see, and then perhaps you look at some of the work from this year's graduates. But back to Brendan.
Thanks, Mehmet, and apologies to everybody. I should have said at the time, I'm holding fort at the studio in East London at the moment. Everybody's out for the day, and we're opening a new ride in 3 weeks' time. So I've got parts arriving. I'll show you the ride at the end, but carry on with the motion platform. So this particular motion platform used techniques such as simulation software to try and work out the kind of G-forces we could create on this ride, given this very simple configuration, all the way down to producing general assemblies and production drawings for the bill of materials that we would need to assemble this product. And the first time we used it, I've been experimenting with brain control. So you see, I've got an interest in monitoring people's bodies, but I've also got an interest in monitoring people's brains. And the very first ride that we created with the motion platform was called Neurosis, which was the world's first brain-controlled thrill ride. And I'll just show you a little video of that now. So riders would put on a brain monitoring headset. They'd climb onto the motion platform, which was raised 3 meters above the audience. And the brain data would create a virtual world, which they go flying through on the motion platform as they were sent tumbling and spinning through the world. All the brain data was linked to a live light show, and the music, I also worked with a composer, the music was created using live brain data of all the riders. And again, just to give you an idea of the kind of process we do, this is just a very simple technical diagram that was created behind that very complex ride. But you can see where super keen on sketching, getting ideas out there, and it's so. I mean, this is one of my drawings. You see, it's nothing spectacular, but it's the process of drawing, the creative process, which is super important to work like this. And here is the motion platform at New Scientist Live. The motion platform gets toured to so many different events now, and as part of your time at the university, you'll get a lot of opportunities to get out with the university, to work with a piece of equipment like this and show them to members of the public. I think finally, the last project I'm going to show you is a project that I made based on Neurosis, which was the motion platform, but I wanted to do something much simpler, which was the design of playground ride equipment. In fact, we've just done a project with the students designing play equipment for playgrounds, but designing play equipment, but also virtual reality experiences to be used in playgrounds. I was quite interested in this, the design of this ride on the right, which is called a haunted swing. If anybody's been to Alton Towers or any of the carnivals, you'll know what it is immediately when I describe it. You get into a swing. In fact, here there's about 20 people. You swing backwards and forwards. But what you don't realize is the room around you is also linked onto a mechanical mechanism, and the room spins in the opposite direction. So you may only be spinning a meter backwards and forwards, but the visual illusion makes you feel that you're going incredibly high and sometimes doing a loop-the-loop. And so this is what the Victorians were doing. This ride was around in about 1897. And I thought, well, why not update it? I can make this using virtual reality. And the very first installation I created for an art gallery in Sheffield just took the room and did exactly the same visual illusion. I was able to track using accelerometers on the headset how a rider was swinging. And in our virtual representation of the room, we just amplified that angle much more. You can see here now, she's almost doing a full loop-the-loop. And then we started doing things like dropping the floor away. Now, and again, this is another drawing out of my sketchbook. I was kind of interested in how many other ways you could do that. So I was replicating something from the Victorian era, but I know, because we've been working on a motion platform, that there are 6 degrees of motion. So not just rotating around one axis, there are 6 different ways we can move people through space. And so I started to develop new VR artwork for simply for playground swings. And that's developed over the years just to allow me to design and create my own swings. So this was commissioned by the City of London, a series of swings around St Paul's Cathedral and other areas of London. And it was inspired by Leonardo da Vinci's 500th anniversary. That was the commission I got. So the swing itself was designed by our studio, but also the content inside it, which was all inspired by his flying machines. This one here is called Ornithopter, and it's replicating the feeling of being a birdman. And the forces when you're on the swing feel absolutely in tune with the virtual world you're seeing, and you absolutely feel that you're flying through the air going forwards. So people are really kicking hard to try and make progress through the room. And, you know, in projects like these, I'll invite students to come and help to staff and to man the rides. And, you know, there's lots of different aspects we get people involved in. And here are just, again, some of the drawings. And in fact, this kind of drawing style and sketching, one of the projects I do on the course is very much about early stage prototyping, developing ideas. So this was just using lollipop sticks, another one using bits of wood that I found in the workshop stuck together. This is how you can develop ideas, not just using high-end CAD, but also anything you can do to move quickly through iterating designs as you're developing them. Again, this was a half scale model we made, which was in a park in East London. And then finally, our final test of the full structure before it was put into before it was installed at St Paul's Cathedral. And these again are just some sketches from my notebook and the kind of thing we'll encourage you to do, just very simple drawings. And finally, so I was saying I'm designing a new ride. If any of you are in England, and indeed in the south of England in 3 weeks' time or over the summer, I'm launching a new ride on Brighton Pier, which is based on this old fairground ride, which is called the Twist or the Scrambler if you're in America. This ride is 80 years old, celebrates its 80th birthday this year. I've designed a VR experience to go on this ride. We're going to be operating on the pier, so I invite anybody to come down, find me, and I'll show you what we've been working on. But here's a sneak preview of a prototype from a 1.5 years ago. I'm afraid I can't show you anymore because we're still waiting to reveal it to the press. And so hopefully you've seen my roots as a product designer, something which is slightly more traditional product design, but using all the same techniques throughout my work over the last 25 years. And it's because there are all these interrelated departments at Middlesex University. It's the reason that I love working with the university, love working with the students, because there's that real mix of creativity, of engineering, of robotics, of all sorts of stuff. It's a very exciting melting pot of different disciplines. And if I meet you next year, I'll probably be talking to you more about sketching and concept development. So that's it from me. I'm going to hand over to Kate to continue the presentation with more about the course. Over to you, Kate.
Excellent, thanks, Brendan. We really do have the best job in the world, don't we?
Let's stop sharing. There we go.
Can't beat this kind of thing. The fact that our jobs are so varied as a product design, everything that you do every single day can be completely different. I think there's not many careers that allow that kind of flexibility. So I'm just going to give a really quick overview of the program, because I know obviously everyone's been listening for quite a long time now, just to give you the kind of highlights. And if you've got any more questions, feel free to ask them here or to drop me an email afterwards. That's no problem at all. Okay, let me just start. So I'm Kate, I'm the program leader for the BA Product Design and BEng Product Design Engineering here at Middlesex University. So a few key highlights about the course. Apologies for all of the text, it's sometimes the quickest way to do it. So it's a 3-year program, both of them with an optional placement year. We have a shared first year between the BA and the BEng program, because we recognise that when you apply to university, lots of people don't really know the kind of program that they're suited for or the thing that they're really passionate about doing. So we have a shared first year where you get to try a bit of everything out. So by the end of your first year, you can choose the program that's really right for you. We have really small student numbers, and this is something, again, that's really important for us on the program. When you're looking around at university courses, these are the kind of questions to ask people. How many students in a year group? What kind of work do the graduates do? What kind of employment do they go on to? So for us, we aim for around 20 to 25 students per year group. And what that means is we can really get to know you. We can work as a group. You can get to know each other really well. And it means we can have really great pastoral care because everybody gets to know everybody. We have exceptional workshop facilities. And if you come to one of our open days when we're back on campus, we'll take you around those and show what you'll have access to when you're a student with us. In the first year, you'll do health and safety training within the first couple of weeks of the program, and then you'll have open access to these workshop facilities. They're absolutely incredible state-of-the-art stuff. We have a dedicated product design studio where most of our teaching takes place. And we also encourage all of the product design students to come and work together there. So you'll get to know not just the students within your year group, but the students across the whole of the program. So again, we have this really great community feel on the program because of our low numbers. We have staff who are practitioners, again, something that we think is really special about the programme. Every member of staff is either practicing themselves or has been in industry within recent times. We have people like Brendan who are running their own businesses and come drop specifically into modules to run projects to come and give expert input, as well as the kind of core staff team that manage the programme. We have a really active alumni network, so those that have left us and gone on to other jobs. I can talk to you a little bit more about that in a minute. And again, really important to us about the course is not only low student numbers, but we very much have an ethos of collaboration over competition. So within our group, we work together. It's not about competing to see who gets the best grades, but it's about us working together as a design team in a real way. So what do we do? So what's product design at Middlesex? And again, a key question if you're looking for a product design course anywhere, what do you mean by product design? What kind of work are you actually going to go and do? So we think of product design in the way that Brendan's just spoken about, covering everything from physical products to interactions, to experiences, to services, and you'll get to design a bit of all of that on the programme when you're with us. We think about product design not just being the pretty thing at the end, but it's about a conversation with people, materials, societal issues, not just about the physical artifact. And it's very much for us about bringing people and technology together in meaningful ways. And we often characterize the difference between the BA and the BEng programme as the BA being very much about how can technology, whatever that technology is, work for people, with the BEng being how does that technology work when it works really well for people. So very subtle differences between the two. Now, the best way to go and find out about the course is to look at the work that our students do. So you can find us on Instagram at MDXPD, where we showcase our graduate work, and the current work is going up there at the moment. You can also look back on the last few years. But also if you search for the hashtag MDXPD, this is the kind of open, uncurated feed that we encourage staff and students to do. So if you want a real idea of what it's like to come and study with us, have a look there and you'll see the kind of experiences that people are having, the kind of stuff that they're doing. It's really nice to have that kind of uncurated feed where you actually see what it's like to be part of the team. We also have an annual magazine. So again, if you do a Google search for MDXPD magazine, you'll find magazines from the last 5 years, and they report on our graduate work from the final year students. You'll see profiles of staff and you'll see kind of general news around the department. So again, it's a really good way to get an insight into what the programme's like and what it's like to study here at Middlesex. So being a student, what's it actually like? Well, you'll do lots of live projects. Now, Brendan's talked about some of these. Now, we bring a range of industries in to come and work with you, kind of from the second year upwards. So our first year is primarily focused around building your core skills. And then in the second year, it's very much focused around building a really great portfolio. So we'll get companies in to set live briefs and we'll work with you to help you to understand how to work at a professional level to produce really excellent work. We have, sorry, I've got a screaming child in the background, if you can hear that. We've got a weekly guest lecture series where we'll have experts from industry coming in to talk to us. Everyone from kind of Google to Dyson. Now, sometimes we bring our graduates back who are practicing in industry, and it's really great for them to come back and talk about their journey from when they left university to where they've got to give that real kind of hints and tips and advice. We also encourage very much networking. So every student has a LinkedIn profile, and we encourage them to connect with every one of the guest lecture speakers. So when you graduate from us, you already have a network of design professionals that you're in contact with. As I say, our alumni group is a really active group. So we have a LinkedIn page where people stay connected, and we encourage every student and every graduate on the programme to get involved in that group. And what we find is as our students are going off into industry, they then return to the LinkedIn page because of their affection and affinity for the course. And there's sharing of job opportunities, there's opportunities to find internships within this really nice community that we've built, because we have graduates now all around the world in a whole range of design professions. You can see here, this is a showcase from our 2018 magazine where we said 10 years on, where are they now? And our students were everywhere from running their own businesses to working in graphic design, working as environmental consultants, working in design consultancy. We've had students at Lego, we've had students at Tesla. So a whole range of industries that people are going into. And again, this is the really exciting thing about product design, the breadth of careers that are out there. So what I thought I'd end with is just 4 examples of some of our student projects from this year. So these are our graduate projects from the students that are leaving us. Again, to give you a taste of the range of work that you could do as a product designer. So this student, Ralph, had a real passion for cycling. And he'd noticed that the only data gathering apps that were available for cycling were things like Strava, the really big one. So all about road cycling, tracking where you've been, the length of time, the speed that you were going at. But he was really interested in off-road cycling, and there was just nothing around there that existed. So he, very much in the way that Brendan was showing, went through this amazing prototyping stage of building test rigs to work out how he could gather different kinds of data. And he ended up with a working test rig and the basis of a new app. You can see some of the data visualizations here on the right-hand side of the screen, where he was strapping stuff to his helmet, strapping stuff to his bike, and gathering these amazing data sets which haven't existed in the past. And again, very much that's important to us is building these real test rigs. So it's not making pretty CAD images of what things might look like, but actually getting their hands dirty and finding things that work and doing the testing. This was another student called Jerusa, who was really interested in learning development milestones. So she became really interested in children who had Down syndrome and how their learning milestones often differed from children who didn't. And she did an exploration, excuse me, of the products that existed at the moment, and found that there was this real gap in the market to support these very specific needs. So she developed a piece of multifunctional furniture which worked with children up to the age of 5. But she didn't just develop the piece of furniture, she developed the whole ecology around the furniture. So how would, for example, families on a low income have access to this particular piece of furniture? What happens when the family had finished with the furniture? How could it go back into the ecosystem and help other families? So again, as product designers, we're not just designing the thing, we're designing everything that surrounds it. We have some students that get really interested in medical design. So this was a student whose father was a surgeon, who did laparoscopies. So this is the medical equipment that his dad was using. And it became really interesting looking at the statistics of what the common problems in the surgery was. And so he went through this amazing series of prototypes using existing surgical equipment to look how surgeons could work in a slightly different way by bringing the existing pieces together. So looking at combining forceps and suction in really new and interesting ways. And again, having that expert input on hand, working with real surgeons to work out what could be possible. And again, going right through to the finished kind of design for manufacture stage. And then we have other students. So this was Nav. She became really interested in environmental design and activism and kind of changing the way that we perceive products that are around today. So she became really interested in the fact that it's not possible to fix anything and the amount of products that were going to landfill. So she took a single household item, which was an iron, as a sample product and worked through this incredible project, ending up with a series of design guidelines, looking at how you could take really simple everyday items and design them in ways that would allow us to interact in a completely different way. So this was the notion of a modular iron, where people could dismantle it, you could fix it, you could replace key components and assemble the whole thing together in a really, really safe way. And again, you have this amazing kind of visual language that goes with this, that has a statement about kind of what the product means and allows it to work in just really interesting and new ways. And again, it's not just about the design of the iron, but it's about all of the design guidelines and how the kind of wider product ecosystem works right through to recycling and manufacture. So I'm going to stop talking there because it's already 20 to 6. So let me just stop sharing my screen and see if there's any questions. Mehmet, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Not really. I'm just here to keeping company, but quite impressive stuff. But I mean, as I said earlier, while Brendan was collecting his delivery, that the degree show launches today. I put the link to the degree show, well, the virtual degree show, if you like, because given the conditions that there's a lot of detailed on its individual students' work that are online. But other than that, thank you. Are there any questions from the group? I think we've got 13 people present.
I'm more than happy to answer questions by email if you go away and think of something that you would have liked to ask. If you go to the university program pages, you can find all of the staff emails associated with the program. So if you look for BA product design, you'll find my email address on there.
And if you want to visit the campus, I think, I'm not sure if it's on the website yet, but on 17th of July, I'll be there on a Saturday between 9 and 4. if you want to drop by, then I can also give you a guided tour of the facilities. So that's on 17th of July, 9 till 4, but you need to go to a website and make a booking, because there's a limited spaces in terms of how many people we can bring on campus, something about 300 people. And you'll be given a time slot to turn up, because I deal with quite small numbers at a time. But I'll be very happy to show you around our dedicated facilities for product design and product design engineering.
Well, thank you so much, Kate, Mehmet, and Brendan. Oh, we do have a question. So the question is, can anyone join as an enthusiast?
Well, that's probably the first criteria.
And then, are you doing another open day later in the year? So as Mehmet said, we've got one on the 17th of July. And there will be other ones later in the year as well. We just haven't scheduled them in, but we will be having some very, very soon.
Post the dates on the website, but they're typically online events like this, but it's an open, virtual open days. But on the 17th of July, I'm actually on campus in person. I think I did one last month as well. But we post those details on the website, so keep watching. But you must please register to attend. Don't just turn up on the day. Yep. So enthusiasts are welcome, but we also need to make sure that you can also cope with the work. So let's look at some basic skills, and we generally assess that by sample portfolio submission.
So there's another one, the difference between the BA and the BEng program. So really similar programs. As I said, they have a shared first year and some other modules in common. Generally, the emphasis is that the BEng has slightly more technical content than the BA. They both do a similar kind of final major project. So those examples that I showed you were a mix of BA and BEng projects. And we would expect the BEng final projects to have slightly higher level of technical content. So for example, the cycling project, he actually, as a BEng student, had to go through the gathering of the data, the analysis of the data, the physical test rig, whereas a BA student wouldn't necessarily need to go to that level of detail, but would need to put slightly more emphasis into the kind of human interaction element to it. But it's quite a subtle difference. No written exams, that's the next question. So only coursework, everything's assessed by coursework across the whole program.
That is something that we have in the entire department. We are hands-on department. Everything we do is by making and doing and understanding in that particular way. And the way we assess your learning, once we've talked in that way, assessing you by written examinations over a 2 or 3 hour period just doesn't make sense. So we don't really have examinations in the whole department, because it's practically we practice by doing things and learn things. It doesn't mean it's any easier or less quality, because the programs that we offer are accredited by professional bodies. So even the product design is accredited by Institute of Engineering Designers. So you become a chartered designer when you finish the program, once you go through sort of practice as well. So they're quality assured, not just for internally, but also by the sector that regulates the industry.
Just say something about applying to the course as well. So there's often questions that come in about portfolios. So we do ask for a portfolio for our applications. When we're on campus, we have interview days. At the moment, we're doing it just by online portfolio. But the portfolio is really important to us because it says something about the designer that you are now. Now, what we're not looking for are people with the best portfolios and the best skills, because what we want is people with enthusiasm and passion and an interest for what they're studying. So sometimes people come to us not from a traditional route, so who may not have done A-levels or BTECs in art or art and design or design and technology. So in those cases, what we're looking for is a portfolio that shows things that you're interested in, hobbies that you've got that are creative, work that you've done in your own time. And the portfolio is nothing to worry about, because what we're looking for is potential and people that we think we can work with and think that we can help, not the best skills that people already have. because that's why you're coming to university, for us to teach you all the skills.
Very good.
If that's all the questions, then I want to say thank you so much for all of you for joining us today. That's all we have time for. Thank you to Brendan, Kate and Mehmet for such an informative and insightful and cool presentation. And any questions that you might have in the future, like Kate said, if you go onto the profiles of all the staff members on the website, you'll be able to email them there. But thank you so much to Kate, Mehmet and Brendan, and I hope everyone has a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.